All right, family. This is your boy over this Kareem, and I'm back at you. And I got my brother Usman with me, and he's actually. I told y'all we was going to talk about trust, and I couldn't wait for him to finish his course. And he's almost at that place. We're going to tell you the time frame, but he. I wanted to do an interview with him to break down to you guys the importance of what a trust is. And he has a whole, breakdown on how he's going to give that information, and I'm going to ask him some questions because I think y'all want to know how important it is and why I have a trust, why I have a public trust in a conjunction with a nonprofit as well as my business. So, my first question for you, brother, is why is it? What is a trust? What is it?
Well, the simple definition of a trust is it's a device basically used to protect your assets. All right. And I say device, that's kind of a way to describe an instrumentality or an entity. That's a better way to put it. It's an entity, just like a business, just like a corporation. It's set up to where it allows you to protect your assets, allows you to protect your wealth, allows you to accumulate your wealth. Now that's the narrow sense. But the broader sense of it is when you use it to interface with all of your commercial activities, your banking accounts, your investments, running your business. A trust, in the narrow sense, as I said, protects the assets. But in the larger sense, a trust is a person. Okay, it has a personhood called a juridical person.
Mm.
And if you think about that for a minute, think about the fact of you having another person to help you out in your commercial activities, to help you out in managing your money, to help you out in running your business. That is the true power of a trust. And that's kind of what's kept away from people in terms of them understanding how they could benefit from a trust, aside from it just being presented as an instrumentality or entity to help you manage your wealth.
But when you say this, what would be the difference between why can't I just do that with a corporation or LLC? Why is it? I know why. But I actually to answer that. I know it's rhetorical and whatnot, but I actually use my trust, my public trust, for protection. So it's a lot of things that when I do pay down or pay off, I want to transfer and move it over to the trust. But why would I've always heard that a trust was something like when you pass away or a living will, you're attached to a trust, or there's something that you you inherit. I was really dumbed down in that area with the trust. So I don't understand why is there so many different entities, and why is the trust something that I have to have, or is it something that I can get to later? But I've noticed that a lot of wealthy people have them. So I'm trying to figure out, is it secrets within the trust that I'm not getting, that because I need the people to understand why you feel they should have a trust. Is it versus a corporation, or do I need to have both?
It's good to have both.
Okay.
A corporation is more closely tied into commerce than a trust. Okay, but that's what you want. The corporation, the world is corporate. Corporation is going to tie in directly with that. All right. And it's going to be structured so that your corporate or your commercial activities are catered to your benefit.
Mm.
Now, a trust does the same thing.
Okay, that's right.
But a trust is more along the private side.
Okay.
All right. A trust allows you, for example, let me give you the difference between a corporation and a trust in terms of your board. Your board of trustees or your board of trustees or your shareholders in a trust or in a corporation are basically the same. Okay. Now they can be directors. In a corporation, your board of trustees would be called your directors.
That's right.
Okay. In a trust, it would be your board of trustees.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. They all adhere to bylaws that they have to follow, so on and so forth.
Yes, got that.
Now, in your trust, your board of trustees can be pretty much who you choose. Okay. In a corporation, your board of directors have to be select people who don't have conflicts of interest in terms of being a part of your family or being friends of yours or being employees, because that's a conflict of interest to the entire corporation.
True.
Okay, and who regulates that? Corporations get their charter from the state, so the state regulates that. You see what I'm saying?
That's correct.
So who you have as members for your trust are subject to just your discretion. You get to choose that.
Mm-hmm.
Who you have for directors in your corporation is pretty much regulated by the state.
Gotcha.
So that's one of the differences right there.
Gotcha.
And that's one of the differences that delineate the public and the private between the trust and the corporation.
Mm-hmm. No, I got that. Okay. And I was about to ask a question, the breakdown of the members in the trust, but you kind of actually already gave that. But so when you dealing with the trust, and I know you probably gonna be dropping videos on this anyway. But when you what is a trustee? I mean, because I heard you mention that right there. It could be almost who you want it to be. It could even be a family member or whatnot. But what is the trustee's job? I mean, because I know the people out there are still lost with this trust thing, and I'm gonna bring it back, y'all. I'm gonna bring it back so you can give you the actual basics and bare minimum on why you can segue up. But what is a trustee? Tell me what a trustee is.
A trustee is the head manager of the trust. That is the person who runs the trust for the grantor. All right, that's basically the one who interfaces with the public for the grantor, who remains somewhat private. Now, it all depends also on what type of trust you have. If you have a grantor's trust, where the grantor can be the grantor and the trustee and the beneficiary, just as long as there's another beneficiary to make sure you have a split title, then the grantor interfaces with commerce himself. What that is basically for is protection of assets and avoidance of probate when, should the grantor pass, even though the laws of descendancy dictate how his property is passed on, it can still be subject to probate court. Okay, and if he has a lot of money and the state sees that maybe on some of his taxes he didn't pay as much as he should have, they can intervene. Now, with the grantor's trust, they can do the same thing with the trust, but they have a harder time because the estate doesn't go directly to probate. Someone has to bring it to the court's attention. With the trust, okay, whatever assets you have, say for instance, if you have a mansion, okay, and you have a wife and children, so God forbid something happened to you, your wife gets your mansion, okay? If you don't have a trust, that goes to probate so that they can supervise it and make sure that she gets that property, okay? But they also, in supervising and make sure that the laws of descendancy are carried out, look into your private affairs. They also check and see, okay, is the title clean on this mansion? Is there any liens against this mansion? And if they are, they get to step in and say, oh, before we pass this down, we need to take care of this little lien right here. Okay, that's what the probate court is going to be. However, if you just have it in a grantor's trust, it just goes to her through whatever accounts that you guys have set up. Your bank account automatically becomes her bank account because she's your beneficiary. You see what I'm saying? So she gets to handle everything the way she does, and she just does the paperwork. And if the courts want to look into it, now it being a grantor's trust, that's this disadvantage of a grantor's trust, which is revocable. An irrevocable trust is different. That's a third tier. Trust gets kind of complicated. So when you deal with trust, you gotta have all your ducks in a row. It's a lot of study,
and you get that breakdown in your class, right?
Oh, exactly.
Okay. Now and yes, people, Kareem is laying my brother up here for you guys to actually down the line get with his membership, only because you guys truly need to understand, if you want to know how I live and how and how I reside, a lot of us is getting misinformation out there, but you're getting correct information, but it's more mixed with fluff. So we've been there where you at, and we've been down a whole lot of rams, because I'm being careful with my words, because I don't want to actually disrespect or diminish what somebody's out there teaching. But I'm going to tell you right here, it's not all in one area. That's why if you notice, when you take my course, I put it all in one area of the basics, and I give a lot of intellectual property of my information of trades and tricks that I do. That's what my brother does here. We are friends and aces for a reason. So I wanted him to give you I've been telling him, please He's been doing this on the side for people already, and he done mine, public and private. But I've been telling him, please give this to the people because they need it. Because one thing you guys need to understand is when you have a business or when you actually basically residing or living, wherever you want to call it in the United States, you have to have a nonprofit, a business, corporation, or LLC. I ain't saying nothing about no sole proprietary thing, and a trust, preferably a public trust to at least get the basics and then go into the private trust because you need to have that private because a private trust is very powerful because they actually take advantage of you if you don't have none of these. And if you have all three, you can take advantage of them as well as protect yourself because it's all about making sure you protect you and your family. And speaking of private, what's so powerful about, brother, the difference between, I heard you mention public trust and a private trust. Now, can you give me the difference and then and why is it that that private one is so confusing and people start rattling their brain like they don't even want to do it. But what this says that's the first question. What's the difference between the public and the private trust?
The difference between the public and the private trust is a private trust is set up is a private contract set up between the grantor, all the members of the trust, and no one else. It's not given permission to operate by a charter from the state. It's not given permission by a charter from the federal government. It is its own private contract and entity set up, protected by the first, by Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. All right, the right to contract, unlimited. When you set up a private trust, no one is privy to the terms and conditions. However, everyone is amenable or they are subject to whatever rules you set forth in that private trust. In other words, if you have a private trust, and your house is in your private trust, your car is in your private trust, your bank account is in your private trust, anyone, any agency, IRS,
your birth certificate is in your private trust?
Your birth certificate is in your private trust. Very good thing to have.
Okay.
IDs. All of your important documentations. The children are in your private trust. Okay. Before anyone gets to your personal business, they have to go through that trust first because the trust is the legal owner of all of that property.
So it's almost like a powerful protection for anybody on that public side.
Remember, we say that a trust is a person, and in my course, I give you the law, showing you exactly how, without a doubt, you see that your trust is a juridical person. Okay. Now, if you like I said, people kind of miss that. It's like, okay, well, that's just another label. There's a spiritual aspect to this. I don't want to get too deep into that right now. We can go into it later. But a trust, think about it. When you go to court, who's suing you? The state.
That's right.
How in the world can the state sue you? Because the state is given juridical personhood. Can sue you.
Juridical personhood, what that mean?
That means that the state has the rights. This entity called the state,
State of California.
that is basically the state of California, which is the judicial branch of the government, has given this entity the power of a person, the state, to take you to court and sue you on behalf of what the state laws say you should or should not do.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the state law says this. Well, how can we enforce these laws if no one's injured? If you commit a crime where no one's injured, we still have to have a person to take you to court. Who is that person? That's the juridical entity called the state. The state versus such and such.
Gotcha.
Or the people. Another word for the state. Another entity for the juridical entity taking you to court. That makes sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So they're giving this entity personhood the same rights as a person to take you to court like another person and sue you. Now, the power in that is this. When you form a trust, you form a person with the same rights. A person who can manage money, who can have a bank account, who can own property. This is what people miss. This is why the linear, small description of an entity to protect your assets falls so short. And my course focuses not so much on the asset protection. Of course, I mentioned it. And that's almost a byproduct anyway of having another person manage your money for you, manage your business for you. But you have this entity that has the rights of a person. You have another person to do things for you. You can do things through your trust. And what that does in a private capacity, to wrap this all up really quickly, it stops you from leaving your own footprint all over the world in the databases and the computers.
So that's why it's so important that the trustee of this juridical person that you just broke down stands in the gap for that entity.
Exactly.
Just like when you mentioned the courts, you mentioned the judge is standing in the gap for the state of said California, Arizona, Nevada. Wow.
Just as they're using this person on paper to do all their bidding, to even throw you in jail if necessary,
right,
you can use your person on paper to do your bidding,
right,
to manage your wealth, to manage your business, to interface with people you necessarily don't want to know where you live or what your bank account is. See, because if you have a trust and your trust has an EIN, guess what? Whenever you interface with that trust, be it an investment company, stock, bank account, investment account, precious metals account, what do they ask you for? They ask you for your name, address, social.
That's right.
That EIN serves as your social. So now you stop leaving your footprint all over the place with the trust.
And that's why it's so important to open up a bank account with that EIN number.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Okay.
And in my course, I cover how you do that. And still, even though once you get that EIN, you get it from the IRS, they still have protocol if they want to interfere in your trust. Now, there's ways where you can get numbers that are outside of the IRS, but it's a lot more difficult. It's even more difficult than just the basic private trust breakdown. So I don't go into that. But further along, if the people stay with me, they'll understand all this stuff.
Right. Yeah, I saw you about to go outside of the United States.
Yes.
Because a lot of people, those that are actually been studying before you came to Kareem, before you found Usman, because that's why I talk about that each one teach one, because when you start learning, you teach someone else, you go along the way of your journey and learn other individuals that are stronger in other lanes than you are. So you definitely need to understand, those of you that are on this journey, whatnot, who is giving you fluff and who is giving you real information. But we understand that the setbacks that a lot of citizens have, and if you notice, I didn't talk about just a certain type of melanin or skin tone or color hue. I'm talking about citizens. Citizens are actually being taken advantage every which way you can think of. So when you understand that you need to be moving within a representative capacity, and one of the most powerful positions to move in is actually a trustee position and a private trust. Why do you think that I actually have to have someone that will actually fine tune my private trust? Because I have a public trust, but my private trust is not the way I want it to be, because that's your baby. That's like we're about to go. I'm going to see if he'll let me go there with it, because he don't want to go too deep with y'all, because I don't think that's part of the core. But I want you to know the power of a trust. When you have a private trust, isn't a private trust like these universities? These universities have private trust set up, and they'll have like what is it called? It'll be on the umbrella, and then they'll still have employees and commerce and even businesses attached to it underneath it. But a private trust isn't it like, or it is like its own sovereignty?
It is. It can be.
How you structure it, huh?
It's how you structure it. I would pretty much say a foreign trust.
Okay.
Is its own autonomous entity.
Okay.
Because you can still get an IRS number for a foreign trust, and the IRS, it's called a 98 number. People may be familiar with that. That lets the U.S. know the trust is
foreign. And you know how to do that?
Absolutely.
Nugget. I mean, they know I give nuggets. Sometimes, I don't want to go into detail, but